What's up guys, my name is Ace, and yesterday on the console versions of Black Ops 4, we got a massive update. This had a ton of changes in it, and today we're going to be going over all of those details. I'm going to be showing you guys before and after when necessary, and when possible. I don't always have pre-patch footage of absolutely every change, but for most of the big changes, especially weapon balancing changes, I will have a before and after for you. Now keep in mind, since this update is so massive, there is no way I'll be able to cover every single minor detail that was changed, so make sure you check out the patch notes. I will leave them linked down below. For a bunch of them, it's really straightforward and self-explanatory, and there's no point in really putting it in this video, and also a bunch of the changes are things that you probably won't really notice gameplay-wise. The main focus of this video will be on the weapon balancing changes, though. So first up, let's hop into the assault rifles. For all of the assault rifles, they got an aim down sight time nerf. All of them pre-patch would aim down sight in roughly 275 milliseconds. Now they're all at 300 milliseconds. And this is definitely noticeable. You can tell that the assault rifles are aiming down sight a little bit slower, which will help the SMGs excel in those close quarter situations where an assault rifle isn't aimed down sight already, which is really nice, I feel, because at least on the console versions, the SMGs were quite weak before this patch. In addition to this, they slightly reduced the aim down sight movement speed with assault rifles from 45% down to roughly 42%. This is a very minor change. You probably won't even notice much of a difference at all, but I also want to point out this does carry over to the stock attachment as well. You will be having a slightly slower aim down sight stray speed with assault rifles when using stock. Now for specific assault rifles, the ICR, according to the patch notes, got a headshot damage nerf, but what actually happened here is they just reduced the maximum damage range from 37 down to 34. What this means is headshots no longer count with the ICR unless you hit 4 bullets to the head, and that will make it a 4-shot kill, whereas before, all you had to do was land 1 bullet to the head along with 3 body shots, and it would be a 4-shot kill. And that was the true power of the ICR. When you're just hitting body shots, the ICR actually has the slowest time to kill in the assault rifle category. The thing that made it powerful was, first off, it's very accurate, but second, landing one single headshot would give it a very competitive time to kill. You no longer gain that benefit, and therefore they essentially destroyed the ICR, in my opinion. In addition to this nerf, they also nerfed the reload speed on the ICR from 1.17 seconds down to 1.3 seconds, which is relatively minor, but now it does reload slightly slower. As for the Vapor, we also see some nerfs for this gun, and it was very similar to the ICR. It used to have that 37 damage range, which meant up close at least, that one single headshot mixed in with body shots would help you out, even without high caliber. This is no longer the case. That maximum damage range for the Vapor has been reduced down to 34, and therefore we don't gain that benefit from headshots unless we're using the high caliber attachment. In addition to that, we got a bit of a range nerf for the Vapor. Pre-patch, it would drop off to a 6-shot kill from a 5-shot kill at 37.5 meters. Post-patch, that's now down to about 30 meters. They also made an adjustment to the high caliber multiplier on the Vapor. Pre-patch, it had an insane multiplier of 1.75. That has now been reduced down to about 1.4. Now, high caliber is still a great attachment on this. It will still make it so one single headshot mixed in with body shots will always be reducing the number of shots to kill. However, pre-patch, we had the ability to go from a 5-shot kill with body shots down to a 3-shot kill with headshots if we had high caliber on and we hit 2 headshots. You can no longer do this. The minimum shots to kill, even with high caliber headshots, is now going to be 4 rather than 3 with the Vapor. Now this is a change I can definitely be on board with. I think the time to kill was a little bit too crazy if you manage to hit 2 headshots up close with high caliber. Now it makes a lot more sense, where high caliber still helps a ton, but it doesn't make the time to kill completely ridiculous. So that's it for the assault rifle changes. Now let's move on to the SMGs. The MX-9 got a slight range buff across the board, so all of its damage ranges were increased a little bit, which is definitely going to help that gun out slightly. But at the same time, they also reduced the high caliber multiplier down to about 1.4 from 1.75, just like with the Vapor. And this is for the exact same reason. It will now prevent you from getting a 4-shot kill in the range where it normally takes 6 body shots. So high caliber, once again, still going to be helping you, but it's not going to reduce the number of shots it takes to kill by 2, only by 1. As for the Cordite, this one also got a slight buff to its damage ranges, although not every one of its damage ranges. The one damage range remained the same, but the ones that really matter did change slightly, which will help you in those close to mid-range situations. In addition to this with the Cordite, its operator mod did get a slight nerf. So before, you used to be able to fire 76 rounds before it would overheat. Now it will overheat in 65 rounds of continuous fire. So it's still very powerful. You can still have sustained fire for a very long time. It's just not quite as long as pre-patch. As for the GKS, its operator mod also got nerfed. This is the one that makes it a 4-round burst, and they have slightly increased the delay between the bursts, but it is still very fast. So I wouldn't really say this is much of a noticeable change, at least based on my experience with it, but they did slightly nerf the GKS operator mod. And finally, for SMGs, we had the SOG 9mm operator mod. This is the one with a dual wield. All they did here is they slightly increased the hipfire spread. Unfortunately, I don't have any pre-patch footage of this to show you guys, but you can see what the post-patch hipfire spread looks like here. Moving on to tactical rifles, the ABR-223 got a slight buff to its 4-shot kill range from 20 meters out to 25 meters. So not a very big change, but it will help in some situations. Now, in addition to those buffs, we actually saw some nerfs for the ABR. First up, the operator mod takes a little bit longer to accelerate its fire rate, so it's not going to ramp its fire rate up quite as fast. Also, the stock attachment is going to be less effective on the ABR. You don't get quite the same movement speed out of that. But once again, they did buff one of the attachments for this, and this is the laser sight. So the laser sight 1 as well as laser sight 2 is going to give you improved hipfire accuracy on this weapon. As for the swordfish, just like with the Vapor and the MX9, it got a slight nerf to its high caliber multiplier from 1.75 down to 1.4. This nerf is designed to do the exact same thing. It just makes it so you won't be reducing your number of shots to kill by 2 by hitting headshots, only by 1. So high caliber is still effective on the swordfish, just not quite as effective as it was. In addition to that, we no longer get additional ammo when we're using the Pentaburst operator mod on the swordfish, which is a relatively minor nerf that doesn't have too much of an effect on this operator mod. Next up, moving into the LMGs, we have the Titan, and the first thing listed in the patch notes is a reduction to the headshot damage so that you can no longer get a 3-shot headshot with the Titan. At least on PS4, this didn't actually get changed. You can still get a 3-shot headshot with the Titan. So I don't really know if that was a bug and it was supposed to change, but it didn't. But as of right now, at least as of me recording this video, you can still get a 3-shot headshot with the Titan. Now, another nerf stated in the patch notes, and this one actually did apply, was a slight hipfire nerf, although it wasn't a huge nerf by any means. It looks like they nerfed it by about 12% or so. And also, finally, for the Titan, we've got a slight reduction to the effectiveness of the stock attachment on the Titan. And unfortunately, I don't have any pre-patch footage or testing of this, but just know that it has been slowed down slightly while using stock. Moving on to the VKM, we got a very noticeable difference to our strafe speed while firing and aiming down sight with this. Before this patch, when you were strafing side to side and firing your weapon, you did get slowed down a little bit. Now you get slowed down quite a bit here, practically to a standstill, so it really locks this gun in as a very stationary gun. It's not going to be quite as effective in close quarter situations, strafing back and forth in a gunfight. It's more so sitting on one location, pretty much completely stationary, and locking down a lane. Another thing they did to the VKM is they lowered the damage across the board from 62 down to 54. Now, in practical terms, this doesn't really change much with this gun. It's still going to be a 3-shot kill without high caliber, and if you have high caliber equipped, you can get a 2-shot kill if both of your shots hit within that high caliber multiplier area. So if you're using high caliber 2, that'll be the upper chest and head. If you're just using high caliber 1, that will be a headshot. It still does have that 2-shot kill potential to those zones. So while they did decrease this damage, it won't really have any noticeable effect on this gun. Now, finally, for the LMGs, the Hades got a nerf to its operator mod, the crossbar. It has a slightly reduced movement speed and accuracy while using that operator mod. Unfortunately, don't have any pre-patch footage of this, but it did get a buff to the steady grip, which allows you to have better hipfire accuracy or less recoil when hipfiring. And with this, they actually buffed that, so they improved the recoil mitigation. For sniper rifles, we saw a bunch of changes to the sniper rifles. Most of them were buffs aside from to the Paladin. However, I'm not going to go over every change in great detail because I simply haven't done any sniper rifle testing up until this point. So if you guys are interested in the changes to the sniper rifles, feel free to read the patch notes because that's really the best I could do for you is just read them out, which there's no point in doing. For shotguns, we got a nerf to the choked barrel on the MOG 12, and this is the attachment that really allows you to get proper one-hit kills with this gun. I don't have the exact stats on the pre-patch one-shot kill range, but the post-patch one-shot kill range is approximately 10 meters now. Just based on feel, this is a noticeable nerf, but it is still an effective attachment for getting one-shot kills. And finally, for the weapon balancing changes, the pistols got a very, very slight nerf to their aim down sight time. It's going to take you literally 1 frame longer to aim down sight, which is hardly noticeable at all. And the RK7 got a slight increase to the time between bursts, so a slight reduction to its rate of fire, as well as a slight reduction to its reload speed. Moving on to some global attachment changes. First off, the suppressor actually got nerfed a little bit. The patch notes were kind of confusing in their wording. It did in fact get nerfed. Previously, most weapons would get a 10% reduction to their ranges with suppressor, which is practically nothing compared to what we're used to in Call of Duty. This has now been bumped up to about 20%, so you'll lose about 20% of your ranges now. It's still a very good attachment and much better than we've seen in previous years with Call of Duty, but just know it's not quite as effective as it used to be. Next, we had some adjustments to the sights in the game, and I actually thankfully did a bunch of testing on this before the patch and was going to make a video on it, but now I guess I could show it here. For the holographic sight, they actually reduced recoil a little bit, so you get slightly better accuracy with the holographic. You can see pre-patch and post-patch with the ICR here. Same thing goes with the dual zoom. We got a slight reduction to our recoil while aiming down sight using the dual zoom attachment, and this one, the results seemed very good actually. It seems like you definitely notice that recoil reduction. We also see a similar story with the recon sight, and with this one, this seems to give the biggest recoil reduction. Then again, not every recoil pattern is going to be exactly the same, so there is room for some variance there, but the recon sight seems to reduce recoil quite noticeably on the ICR at least. And finally, the ELO sight actually got a little bit of a nerf in the recoil department, so you should see slightly more recoil than pre-patch. However, if you look at my tests side by side here, you don't really see too much of a difference. If anything, post-patch looks almost a little bit tighter in the recoil department, but that just goes to show that there is some variance with your recoil, and it is really difficult to show that with just hand testing. Another attachment that was nerfed, and unfortunately, again, don't have any pre-patch footage of this, was the Grip 2 attachment. This is the one that reduces your flinch when shot. That flinch reduction has been nerfed slightly, so it won't give you quite the same amount of flinch reduction, but it will still help within that area. Moving on to the next key point of this patch that I wanted to mention was the long shot ranges. They actually changed these ranges up, so that's the range that you have to be, the distance you have to be from your enemy in order to get a long shot medal, which will help with your camo challenges on assault rifles, tactical rifles, as well as sniper rifles. For the ARs as well as tactical rifles, they have shortened that range required, so it's going to be a bit easier to get those long shot medals. However, when I did the testing, you'll see that it was a very slight reduction to those ranges. And therefore, the video I made talking all about the long shot ranges, and I shared a bunch of different ranges that you can put yourself in to get those long shot medals, that video still applies. It's not going to be super easy to get long shot medals. It's just going to be slightly easier than it once was. Moving on, Stim Shot got a little bit of a nerf just to its heal speed. So not its recharge time or anything like that, but assuming you take a bunch of damage and you pop a Stim Shot, so you start healing yourself with Stim Shot, it's going to take a bit longer now to get up to full health. This change wasn't super noticeable by any means. It's very, very subtle, but it was a very slight nerf to Stim Shot. Also, with armor, this is a key change that they made to guns that have high caliber 2. Now you still get that high caliber 2 bonus multiplier when you're shooting somebody in the upper chest, even if they have body armor. So now guns with high caliber 2 are much more effective against body armor than they once were. Acoustic Sensor also got another slight nerf against people that are sprinting, so it won't have quite the same range against enemies that are sprinting around you. Dead Silence got a little bit of a buff, so your footsteps are a bit quieter than they used to be because it's not really meant to be 100% dead silent. According to Treyarch, you are supposed to make some sound with Dead Silence, but they want it to be very, very minimal, so they reduced that even more than it was already. Another big change that's really going to affect people that are going for that nuclear medal, strike team kills no longer contribute to your Bloodthirsties, Merciless, nuclear, all of those sorts of medals. Before this patch, they would contribute to that. They no longer do. Now, one last key change with this patch for regular multiplayer that I wanted to bring up in this video. Of course, like I said, there are a bunch of other things that were changed, but this is one of the ones that's very noticeable, is Ajax's shield. With his shield, they actually nerfed it quite noticeably. They really underplayed it in the patch notes. When fortified with that shield, pre-patch, you could shoot it directly with a launcher and it would deal no damage whatsoever to the person behind the shield. Now, even without attachments on that launcher, a direct impact to a fortified shield will be an instant kill on an Ajax user. So it's now the perfect counter for an Ajax. If you see one of them coming with a shield and you happen to have a launcher on your class, just whip it out, shoot them directly in the shield, and you'll get yourself an easy kill. Now, there were also a bunch of buffs and nerfs to all of the other specialists. Crash surprisingly got a little bit of a nerf, so there's less score when people pick up your assault pack, which is kind of annoying. Torque's Barricade is now actually buffed, so you get it more often, and it actually has more health, so it's harder to destroy. Recon got a little bit of a nerf to his sensor dart, so it doesn't last for as long. Firebake's Purifier is more deadly now. If you touch somebody with a flame, they are guaranteed to die unless they have Tactical Mask equipped. It will still take some time for them to die, but they are guaranteed to end up dying. And Prophet got a buff to his Tempest, so it has a faster projectile speed, it has an increased chain distance, and also they fixed a couple bugs with that. So now I just wanted to mention a few of the changes that were made to Blackout. Again, not a comprehensive list that I'm going to be talking about. Make sure you check those patch notes out if you want to see everything. They did fix a few of the very big audio bugs that Blackout had, and this is really, really good news. A lot of times somebody without dead silence could run right up on you and you couldn't hear a thing from them. That has now been fixed. Also, they now have a feature where if you're playing duos or quads, you can now mark an item of loot that's on the ground for your teammates to see, which I think is an amazing addition. I really like that, so you don't have to like stand around and show them where it is. You can just mark it and move on. And finally, a big thing here with Blackout is now for all of the multiplayer specialists, their challenges are now active and available within Blackout. Before this update, you only had access to, I think, like 4 of the challenges for like 4 of the specialist characters. Now they are all active, so if you guys haven't played Blackout for a while and you want to get some of those character skins, make sure you hop on and you just might find some new challenges. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for the first big patch update video for you guys. Make sure you check those patch notes out because there's a bunch of other things I didn't cover. They made a bunch of adjustments to spawns as well as different game modes. Gun game is now back in if you guys didn't catch that yet. Of course, if you guys want to keep up with all of the different weapon balancing changes throughout the year, I will be covering them in a similar style, and I'm going to do my best to get as many before and after shots as possible for you, and hopefully from here on out, I'll have some better footage for you so I have more pre-patch stuff to show. But if you guys are looking for those throughout the year, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Of course, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about all of these various changes they made in this big patch? Personally, I'm a little bit disappointed they went the route of nerfing a lot of the assault rifles rather than buffing SMGs in a serious way. At least for the console build of the game, I feel like SMGs are a bit weak, and I would have preferred seeing things speed up a little bit rather than slowing down the assault rifles to try and bring them back to the level of SMGs. That's just my opinion though, but of course, I'd like to know what you guys are thinking down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time. Yeah.